So, today we want to talk about why so many Californians, as well as other people throughout the country, have regretted moving here to the Dallas, Texas area. And we're going to get after that right now. What's up, everybody? I'm Kristen Carpentier with the Living in Dallas team, located right here in the Dallas Fort Worth area. And if this is your first time to our channel and you want to know everything there is to know about what it's like to eat, sleep, live, work, and play here in the Dallas Fort Worth area, don't forget to click that subscribe button down below and hit that bell for notifications because we're dropping new content every single week about what it's like living here. And we absolutely love it. So, whether you're moving next week, next month, or even next year, don't hesitate to reach out and let us know what we can do to help you make that smooth move here to the Dallas, Texas area. All right, so today we want to talk about why people may have regretted moving here to the Dallas area. Now, obviously, Dallas isn't for everybody, and people think that, you're coming to the South, you're coming to the Big D, and it's going to be all sunshine and rainbows. Well, it obviously isn't that way for a lot of people, and therefore, why a lot of people have had regrets moving here and just kind of wish that maybe they would move back to where they came from, or maybe they just actually do move back to where they came from. And one of the biggest reasons is because of the weather. Now, when we have clients who've relocated here from Chicago, New Jersey, Virginia, Seattle, and they think, I'm tired of the rain, I'm tired of the snow. And then they get here thinking it's just going to be warm and glorious all the time. And then they realize how warm it really is. So, yes, here in the Dallas area in the summertime with the humidity and the heat, it can be quite unbearable sometimes. So moving here and thinking, granted, we do have lots of lakes. There are lots of areas you can go and enjoy a pool. There are lots of people who don't enjoy going to the pool or to the lake. And they think, you know what, I moved here and oh my gosh, my air conditioning is just continually running and it is hot all the time. And not only that, there's nowhere to go to escape the heat. Back when you live, in various other areas throughout the country, if you have mountains, and those types of things where you could maybe take a day trip 45 minutes up into the mountain, or you can take a quick trip anywhere to relieve yourself of the heat. And here in Texas, there really isn't that option. If you don't love going to the lake where, obviously you might need to be in the water the whole time because it's so dang hot, it just might get to be a little too much living here in the Dallas area. And then you have these crazy winter storms that come. Granted, our winters are fairly mild, but when we get these storms that actually blow through and you have lightning and you have thunder and this crazy storm where your pipes burst. Granted, that doesn't happen very often, but it does. And only because it happened to us a couple of years ago when the ice storm came through, it was kind of like a week. We got lucky and we actually had rolling power, but there are a lot of people who lost power and the ice was so thick and people's pipes were bursting and pools were having problems and lots of people were having issues. Granted, I don't think people had said that had happened in like 20 years, but every couple of years you're probably going to get some sort of ice storm or snowstorm. And you know what? That might be okay. But here in Texas, nobody knows how to deal with it. We don't know how to ice our roads. We don't know how to plow the freeways, unlike other places where you are coming from. Obviously, if you're living up in Michigan or up in Maine, they know how to plow the roads, or even Utah for that matter. But here in Texas, we don't know how to do that. So, on the rare occasions where we do get it, which, it could happen once every year where you get it and it makes it troublesome for a lot of people on the highways. But Texas doesn't know how to deal with those problems. So, the weather here just isn't for everybody. And they think, you know what, if I'm going to live in the cold, I might as well live in the cold where they know how to handle it. And we have had a couple people that we have known who have ended up going back to where they came from just because, you know what, it's so hot. It's a little too much for what I had thought it was going to be. And I actually like my four seasons. And yes, we have a beautiful spring and a beautiful fall here in the Dallas area. But in the wintertime, it's just gray and gloomy and everything is dead. So it's really nothing that beautiful to look at. Like I said, if we do get snow for a day or two, it just doesn't stick around. It's probably going to be melted within a day or two, and there's not going to be any signs of it. So it's not even going to make it pretty like living up north, say say, for example, in Utah, where you have the beautiful snow on the mountains, like 8 months out of the year, and you actually have a beautiful view. So when it's cold and dreary and gross outside, at least you have somewhere pretty to look. Here in Texas, everything just looks dead. So a lot of times people are thinking, you know what, I'm going to go back to where the weather is glorious all the time. I mean, think of how it is in Southern California. Yes, the prices are high. Yes, you don't get as much house for your money, but at least the weather is amazing. And maybe you can go, relocate to a better area, closer to family, and you don't have to put up with the crazy weather here in Texas. And not only that, you'd be a little closer to the beach. So, definitely one of the big things here in Texas is the weather. Not everybody is quite as prepared for how hot it can get here in the Dallas area. So, the number two reason why people may have regretted moving here to the Dallas area is the traffic. Now, the Dallas Fort Worth area is super spread out and it's totally concentrated, right within the DFW Metroplex. It's not like living on the coast or living, near the mountains. The DFW area is very spread out and it is continuing to spread in all directions. But the traffic here is crazy no matter where you're going. A lot of these freeways always seem to be under construction. Roads are always under construction, especially with, like we had talked about, how our weather is. Always, something's always falling apart, it seems. No matter where you're going, some of these neighborhoods, there's potholes. They're fixing the potholes and having to get down these toll roads because you're living so far outside of the Metroplex, thinking that you can buy a much bigger, newer home, and then having to realize, like, how far they're commuting to work. And they're thinking, you know what? I came from California where I commuted an hour, but that was expected. And now here I am in Dallas, and I thought my commute would be so much easier and it would be so much easier to get around. Where in fact, they're realizing, nope, traffic is still just as bad. It's taking me an hour to get places. I'm having to take all these toll roads in, and it's just backed up, and it's just not as easy as I thought it would be. They thought moving to Dallas was just going to completely cut down on their commutes, but it doesn't, not necessarily. And you're still having to deal with these big major traffic problems. People are realizing for what they could afford in the type of home that they wanted, they're just having to move that much further out of town, and therefore they're having to have that much longer commute. So a lot of people have thought, you know what, I might as well just go back to where I came from. In fact, we were just talking with some friends the other day who's had just had their second baby, and grandma and grandpa had said, you know what, you need to come back to California, live by us, like come back where all of your family is. You left to go to Texas, but come back. And they thought, you know what, with the way the prices had gone up and where they were located and the traffic that they were having to deal with, they might as well move back to California and be closer to family. So basically, Dallas wasn't all that it was cracked up to be, and they ended up wanting to move back to California to be closer to family. But people are saying that all the time. Traffic is just as crazy as where I came from. And depending on where I have to travel for work and how far outside the city I am and how much I'm having to drive, maybe it just wasn't really worth that move. The number three reason why people have regretted moving to the Dallas area is the affordability factor. For example, they're thinking, I am leaving California in my 1,800 square foot home, 3 bedrooms. I can move to the Dallas area and I can get this big, beautiful home, brand new. I can have a pool and all this room to spread out in this great master plan community. And they come out here, and for what they want, it's not quite as affordable as they thought it was. And these homes are still 800 to $1 million, especially if you're wanting to be in some of these big brand new master plan communities with these brand new homes that, coming from California where these homes were older. And not only that, the homes that they are wanting in these newer communities are quite a bit further outside of the Metroplex than they had thought it would be. Granted, big, beautiful areas. People have loved a lot of these communities that have come in, but they are pretty far outside of the city and maybe getting all around the Metroplex. We've realized when we had kids, thinking, you know what, we're having to travel all over for them. And the further you get outside of town, thinking, I'm having to travel for club baseball and club volleyball and basketball, and I'm all over the Metroplex, but it's taking me 2 hours every single weekend just to get to these games because they had to move so far outside of the city for the affordability and these big, beautiful homes that they thought that they were going to be able to get. And granted, there are a lot of affordable areas here in the Dallas area, but people know that we are continuing to grow and there's a lot of new build growth all throughout the metro area. And the further out you get, you're going to get these bigger homes that are actually kind of expensive. And from where you came from other cities all throughout the country, you know what? It's just not as affordable as people were thinking that it was. So moving to Dallas, thinking you're going to get this great deal on a home, it's just not quite as affordable as what people were thinking. Because the closer you are into the city and into some of these suburbs, a lot of them have older homes. And just coming from an older home, depending on which part of the country you're coming from and hoping that you can move to Dallas where everything is bright and shiny, it's not necessarily the case. So, affordability is definitely a reason where people were thinking it was going to be that much more affordable here. And in fact, they've realized a lot of these homes are just a lot more expensive than they had thought that they would be. The number four reason why people have maybe regretted moving here to the Dallas area is the fact that we did touch on it a little bit with regards to the weather, but the fact that we really aren't close to any mountains or any beaches or any great, say, terrain to go mountain biking or skiing or any of those things that people might enjoy doing outdoors. When we moved here from Arizona, it was an easy drive to hop in the car and be over to the beach in 5 hours. But everybody in Arizona loves to go to California because you're leaving 100-degree weather and going to 70-degree weather. So obviously, where it's hot, people have this easy escape to go and enjoy much cooler, much nicer weather. Whereas here in the Dallas area, I mean, granted, you can get down to Galveston in maybe 4 hours, but it's still really hot. And everybody here likes to go to Florida to the beach, and it's really hot. In fact, our daughter went there this summer with her friends, and she thought, you know what? In California, we go to the beach and we spend 8 hours out there. Everybody takes naps on the beach. It's breezy, it's cool, and we love getting in the water. And they went down to Florida, and she was like, I was sweating to death. Everybody was so hot. We could only stand to be there for an hour. And then we got in the beach, and it was still hot. So, granted, there's no real way to cool off here in the Dallas area. Like I said, you can always go to the lakes and enjoy the lake life, but it's still really hot. And another thing, too, whether you live in Arizona or Utah or anywhere throughout the country, if it gets hot in the summertime, all you have to do is take maybe 30 minutes or maybe 2 hours and get up into the mountains where it's much cooler. And here in Texas, we don't really have that. You do have to travel quite a ways to actually find some decent mountains. And even then, it's just not as cool as you were hoping for. But in the heat of the summer, when it's just so miserable outside and the air conditioning isn't cutting it, your pool's hot, the lake's hot, and everything is hot. And it would just be nice to maybe take an hour to go up in the mountains where it's 20 degrees cooler and enjoy, a little bit of the reprieve from the heat. You don't get that here in Texas. So people come and think, you know what? I thought it was just going to be so much more tolerable. We were going to enjoy being warm, but it's a little too warm. And they just end up wanting to go back to where they came from because they wanted those four seasons and they wanted to be able to enjoy the outdoors or have a reason to be able to cool off or warm up when they needed it. And you don't really get that option by living here in the Dallas area. And the number five reason, last but not least, why a lot of people may have regretted moving to the Dallas area is our politics. Granted, we always say we don't love totally getting into the politics here, but for the most part, despite a lot of people relocating here to the Dallas area from all across the country, Texas is continuing to remain more of a red state. So they get here and they realize we love flying our flags. We love shooting our guns. We love just, that state pride, that country pride, and all things Texas. Here in our state, we still pride ourselves on being red. At least a lot of the people here. Well, technically, at least the majority, because we are continuing to be a red state. And you know what? People come from all over the country. And yes, I do believe that we are very welcoming to people of all beliefs here in the Dallas area. But sometimes it gets to be a little much for some people, and they think, oh my gosh, it's so conservative and it's so red, and I just feel like I don't have a voice. As we know, so many people from all walks of life and all belief systems who do live here in Texas, but they still have a hard time with the way our politics are run. And they think, you know what, I just can't handle it anymore. It's just a little too much of the gun loving, flag flying, and just a little too much on the red spectrum for them. And they decide that, you know what, maybe I need to go back and, have a little bit more of my own political beliefs back from where I came from. So, yes, politics, we're still a little bit red here in the state of Texas. We are still a little bit more on the conservative side compared to the liberal side. And so that's why some people may not think that the Dallas, Texas area is right for them. But if you have any opinions on what we can do to make your life that much easier here in the Dallas Fort Worth area, and if you have any questions about what it's like relocating and anything that we can do to help, don't forget to reach out, give us a call, shoot us a text, or send us an email. And don't forget to like this video or comment on what videos you want us to do next so that way we can help you make that smooth move here to the Dallas, Texas area.